Hi there, I'm Andrew, you're watching ThatGamerAjax, and welcome back to the tabletop. Now, today is going to be a little bit different, so what we are going to be doing is we are actually going to be doing a beginner's guide. We haven't done one of these in a little while, but this time I'm very excited because we will be diving into the world of Cyberpunk Red. So Cyberpunk Red is a game that I've wanted to play for quite a while. I've gotten a chance to play a couple of games on my Discord server. Thankfully, we have a great game master that kind of introduced me to some of the basics. But once I played that first session, I knew that this was a game I wanted to play and I wanted to dive into more. And I got this book recently, and I'm very, very, very excited about it. Now, I've gushed about Cyberpunk Red already in terms of the way that it handles character creation, and we'll get to that here in a little bit. But I do think that this game is very special, and I know that it's seeing a lot of limelight right now, especially because of, you have the show of Cyberpunk Edgerunners, and this is the same universe that Cyberpunk 2077 is set in. So if you've heard of the video game or you've heard of that show, this is kind of what originated it. This is a newer version of the game. The original was Cyberpunk 2020, but this is the more updated version, and this is a lot more streamlined for newer players. So let's go ahead and dive right on into what it takes to become a cyberpunk. So just with it comes to getting this book, there are a couple of things that you need to know. The world is set in 2045. Obviously you're already getting into futuristic stuff, but based on the world lore, the cybernetics and cyberware started really developing in the 1990s, and from there it just kind of became this corporate hellscape is the easiest way that I can describe it. You have corporations that are stronger than governments and went to war, and with the time of the Red, where it's currently set, it is not long after the Fourth Corporate War, which kind of really messed up a lot of the planet, and society is really starting to rebuild from that. There is one primary setting that is spelled out in the book, which is Night City. If you are familiar with, either Edgerunners or Cyberpunk 2077, that's where that is set as well. There are a lot of things that your game master could do where you can adapt this to play at any point in the world, but Night City is the primary location where you will be playing. Now, what do you need to know when you are going to be a player in Cyberpunk Red? So, Cyberpunk Red doesn't have traditional classes like some of your other games do, like Dungeons and Dragons or Pathfinder or Starfinder or whatever. With this, your character takes on a specific role, and those roles are as follows. So you have the charismatic rocker boy, which is kind of almost like a punk rebel musician artist, people that use the fame that they gain on the street and the notoriety that they can get against specific groups to get followers, and then you can get those followers to do things for you. Next, you have the very combative solos, who are more of your grounded mercenary types. The special ability that they get is that they have a certain point allotment that you can then use for all kinds of different combat things, such as doing more damage, have better chances to hit, being able to deflect damage better, move faster, things like that. Netrunners, who really focus on hacking and getting into the living net, as it were, because the internet is massive in terms of cyberpunk lore. There's a lot of details in it, and I do think this is one of the more complicated classes. You have techs, who are more of your tinkers, mechanics, builders, etc., that focus on inventing and improving anything that is around them. They can do some really cool things for a party as well. You have med techs, who focus on patching up people rather than machines, and they are also kind of the people that have a better understanding of how cyberware works in this game. Because of this, they are able to also install cyberware on people and allies during downtime. You have medias, who can be a wide variety of things, but are primarily people that are trying to spread the word about all kinds of different things. They can take on a wide form of personalities, such as being, like a Twitch streamer would be one thing, or you could just be a traditional reporter if you wanted as well. You have execs, who are more of your kind of corporate folk. While they don't get some of the best advantages in the game, they do get some passive bonuses, such as free housing, which everybody else has to pay rent for, and you also are able to start curating a team to help with the needs that you specifically have to further the goals of the corporation. You have lawmen, who are you start out as more of a beat cop, and you are able to call in backup when situations get dire. I think that you can do some really interesting things with this role. You have fixers, who are more of kind of the deal makers. I have not seen anybody play a fixer yet. Normally you are getting jobs from fixers in the game, so I think it'd be very interesting to play one of these roles. And lastly, you have nomads. Nomads are kind of your drivers more than anything. They are usually the people that are transporting things between the megacities that exist in the new United States, set in the world of Cyberpunk, and because of the way that they work, they are the best behind the wheel. So what does playing this game actually look like? So when you make a character, you will follow a specific life path that kind of determines a lot about your character. It can be from what style your character has, how many, your parents, your living situation that you grew up in, enemies that you have, lovers that you've had, friends that you have even. And this is all done by rolling on a variety of charts. Alongside this, there are three major ways to build your character. There is a complete package, which means that you are customizing every single thing about your character. You are given a certain amount of points that then go into your core stats, which this game has 10 as compared to the traditional 6 that things like Dungeons and Dragons have. And those stats are intelligence, reflex, dexterity, tech, cool, will, luck, move, body, and empathy. Now, some of these scores are going to affect different things. So your reflexes, for example, are very good for being able to dodge incoming attacks or use ranged weapons, whereas your body is going to be influencing the amount of health that you have. And your empathy is actually a very important stat as a quick example because it determines how much humanity your character has. The more you look at upgrading your character with cyberware, the more of that humanity you are going to lose, and then there's also the chance that you could become cyber psycho, which just means that your character has had basically a mental breakdown, and then essentially the way it works in the game is that you hand over your character sheet, and then you may be able to witness them again as an NPC later in the game, but that is going to be entirely up to your game master. So if you are doing a complete package, you will be distributing the number of points that you have amongst all of these skills, and you can do somebody that's completely average at everything if you want, and then you can start tweaking those numbers where you're really good at certain things and not so great at others. And this is going to be the basis of how all of your skills work. If you're doing this complete package character, once you are done with this step, you'll move on to the skills. And again, you get a certain number that you have to distribute amongst all of your skills. And let me tell you, there are a lot. I think that some of them are incredibly niche, and I love this game for that. And then the way that it works is that rather than using a 20-sided dice like what you do in Dungeons & Dragons, this game uses a 10-sided dice. So you roll that d10, and then you will be adding your core stat and your skill together to determine your final result. Depending on the result of that die, things are either going to go average, you're going to pass the check, you're going to fail the check, you're going to do really, really well, or you're going to do really, really poorly. Now, if you roll this 10-sided die and you get a 10, you get to roll again, and you can add that for a greater effect. The same thing happens if you roll a 1 on the other side, though. Instead of adding that additional die to it, you will subtract that away, which means that you are most likely going to critically fail a check. Though, no matter what, something that the Cyberpunk rulebook says is that even when you fail, at least try to make it look cool. If you are also completing your complete package character, you have a couple of options where you have a certain amount of money to spend on cyberware and arming and clothing yourself. And that's pretty much that. Now, if that seems like there's a lot that you're going to have to do into making your character and you just want something that's a lot faster than that, there is the Edge Runners package that you can do for your character creation. Now, there are stats that are already provided for you in the book. I know that with the character that I made in Cyberpunk Red, this was the way that I did it. And it's based on a template that is really kind of defined by the role that you are wanting to play. You'll have a variety of stats to choose from. And from there, you just have to choose a couple of options. It makes it so it is very, very easy to build a character as a whole. And if you want to just grab something and go right away, then there is the Street Rad package for you. And now this is just a completely built out character based on a template that is associated with the role that you are wanting to play. Now there's still the option for you to take a Street Rat style character and make it your own. But if you want something that you can literally set up in minutes, this is going to be the easiest way for you to do it, and then all you have to do is just roll that 10-sided die to determine your overall life path, and you are good to go. You can have something set up in maybe about 5 minutes. Now, when you're actually playing the game, you are going to be working with the other players and you are going to be forming a team. Now, one thing that you should know is that in the world of Cyberpunk is that you're not really going to be the best of people. At best, you are probably going to be morally ambiguous. There are no real good people and there are a lot of bad people that are out there, but there's just a lot of people that are trying to get by and survive. So this is not going to be one of those we are going to go out and save the world style games. Instead, this focuses on more personal things. You have personal quests, there are missions, you all have an agenda for yourself. And I think that with the roleplay mechanics that are in place for Cyberpunk Red, I think that there are a lot of ways that you are going to be able to express things through your character. Now, the longer that you play the game, the more missions that you accomplish, the more notoriety that you get improvement points. And this is how you advance your character. There is no traditional leveling up system. And what you do with these improvement points is that you can use them to increase your skills, or you can use them to increase your role abilities. There are, in the book, there's a set number of points that you need to be able to advance something from like level 1 to level 2, or just determining like how many points you have in that skill. And some definitely take more than others. That usually it shows that it requires more training. If you're wanting to increase your role ability, which means that it's the special thing that your character does, it's going to cost you a lot of points. So just make sure that you are saving those up. Once you complete a session, your game master is going to determine how many improvement points that you get, and that depends on if you are going to be really indulging in the style of character that you are playing. So like if you are playing a solo, for example, you're that more like mercenary type, you would probably fall into being more of a warrior style player, which means that you're going to be focusing on like eliminating enemies, intimidating others. If you really indulge in that and your game master likes what you're doing, they will reward you even more improvement points to go into the next session. After every single session, those points are tallied, and then you can just distribute those at the beginning of your next session, which means that you are constantly going to be getting an influx of usually money to improve your character through cyberware or new armor or weapons and whatnot. Expanding the way that your character lives, getting cars. You have a lot of things that you can spend your money on, and honestly, just what's in the core rulebook is kind of absurd. And then you also have those improvement points. So you are constantly improving the skills that you have or those roles that you have. And then if you even feel like it, if you feel like maybe this role isn't really working for me, and now like if I want to go from being a solo to being a rocker boy, you can do that as well. You can just shift the way that your character is playing, and you will instead buy a role 1 ability for being a new rocker boy, and you just won't be a solo anymore. It's as simple as that. It's very fluid and very dynamic. The stories that you can tell in this game are incredible from what I've been reading. There are so many good ideas for game masters, and there are also a lot of tips in there for new game masters, and I can say that just by reading through this, I really enjoyed all of the lore and the world building and the amount of story ideas that are already present in here. Along with this, there are example stories that you can pull inspiration from. And if you want to just try this game out and see if it is going to work for your table, there's always the Cyberpunk Easy mode, which is a free little supplement that has pre-built characters and kind of gives you the basic rules of how to play this game. Now, I will say that when it comes to combat, it is going to be just a little bit crunchier than most people are used to, just because you have to factor in armor values that usually are able to stop a certain amount of damage, and then certain guns are better at different ranges, so that's something that you have to keep in mind. But overall, it's really not that bad, and it's very quick and fluid. I will say, if you can play a game like Dungeons & Dragons, you can play Cyberpunk easily, and I have to say that this game really does seem like it's something special. It's one that I'm going to be investing a lot more time in, but this is just a very basic guide on what you can expect when you are getting into this game for the first time. And if you are curious about how Cyberpunk plays, I would really encourage you to check out the Cyberpunk Easy mode. I mean, it's free, literally doesn't cost you anything, and reading through it doesn't take overly long either. I think you can probably read through that whole thing in maybe 30 minutes, if that, and then you really would be good to go because there's already a mission in there and characters that are built for it. So that is going to go ahead and wrap up this video. If you have played Cyberpunk, what are some tips that you would recommend for new players, and what is your favorite role to play? I mean, I will say I've been playing a solo and I've been having a very good time with it, but I really want to try out some of these other ones. And hey, until next time, I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.